we're back with Living History with Ted Goldsborough and Helen Dixon. And in this segment, we're going to find out about Helen's childhood and her schooling. So here we go. Well, welcome again, Helen.
Thank you, Ted, for having me.
When your mother was working as a nurse at Dr. Ludlum's Sanitarium, what were you doing?
Basically, my whole life along the river, when we moved there from 3 years old up, if my dad was working, I was alone. When I was 4, they farmed me out to a lady, Mrs. Asquith, in Upper Gladwyne, that boarded children. She had a boy there that she boarded, and she boarded me for a short time. My dad had gotten work, and they didn't want me to be home at 4 years old by myself all the time. So I stayed there for the summer months anyway, before school started, and then came back home. And my dad would make my lunch the night before, and I walk up to the bridge at Mill Creek, and that's where the school bus came. And Army Armstrong was our bus driver when I was a kid. I'll never forget him. He was an older man, and all of us on River Road called him Army for short, for Armstrong. So anyway, they would take us up to the Merion Square School, and if we missed the bus to come home, there was no second bus. We walked down Rose Glen Road, down
miles
down Mill Creek, and past the sanitarium, and everybody would run. Anybody because they were scared to death. Everybody said they were afraid of the people at the sanitarium, but it never scared me, because at one point, my junior year, I spent 2 months relieving vacation nurses, not nurses but helpers, and got my eyes opened with some of the goings on of how to treat mental patients. It was terrible. But anyway, from Merion Square School, we went to 7th grade then, all the way to 7th grade. And then I went to Ardmore Junior High, and from there to senior high, and I did get promoted each year. I never was left back. And
what year did you graduate from?
1944.
During the war.
During the war. And we had a class, I'm telling you, it was really, really, I mean, we had somebody really notable graduated in my class, Julius Specton. He's the first black general ever in the U.S. Army.
And a
came out of Lower Merion.
And a distinguished alumnus of Lower Merion.
Okay. Yes.
Now, Helen, you have some pictures here. Would you tell us about some of those pictures?
Yes. There's one of my father and my cousin and his wife. My cousin was a professional wrestler at the time, and his wife. There's swimming in where the Schuylkill and the Mill Creek met. And then there's a picture of my aunt and uncle from Canada in front of the house by the store where we lived.
Now, where would they stay when they came?
With us.
Oh,
with us.
Wow.
At our house. And there's a picture of me down along the river. Our pier was right there, and that's where we used to dive in.
Are there any piers there today?
No. Oh, there's a
boat launch?
Kind of a boat ramp where you can slide the boats in.
Could you tell about those piers in the old? Were they just wooden stakes in the,
yes,
in the water?
In the water, and
boards,
scrap lumber. Anybody can make. And one of the houses down below had a double-decker, and we learned to dive from the high part off of there. We used to have a lot of fun in that river, and never realized, never knew anything about it being so dirty. And later on, I had the misfortune to develop 3 different kinds of cancer, and I often think in my own mind,
you
wonder if because any kid that goes swimming anywhere, you eventually have drunk some of that water, and it always entered my mind that not always, but it always,
frequently.
yeah.
Now, did some of these people have rowboats or canoes?
Yes, and motorboats. Some of them. Later on, when things picked up and people got more work and so on, they were more affluent. And at one point there, my one cousin used to come up every weekend and stay, and he and my father built a sailboat in the river and put the wood, like in the old country in Germany, put the wood in the water and shape it, you know, and get it molded so that it would go
flexible
around. Yeah.
Wow.
And it was really a great time. And even in the floods, I remember a time, one big flood when I was married. The water, a dam broke up above, and a whole lumber yard, all the lumber was coming down. And my husband tied a rope around me. I was an excellent swimmer. And he said, now you go out and get, and I was out in the water and tied another rope to a bundle of 2x4s. He pulled the wood in first.
Let you stay out there.
And I was out there. And
it's important.
Then he pulled me in. But that was the end of that. My father chastised him and told him, don't ever let me hear you do that again. But
you had mentioned, well, let's go through the rest of these photos.
One of these, this is my dad, and one of our dogs. We always had a German Shepherd, but then we always had a stray because I was always picking up stray dogs. And the where the park is, they have restrooms for male and female, and that's where our house stood. My father and mother moved up to the storehouse, and we traded houses, and I and my family moved down there. My dad had built this lamp and post and all. He was an iron worker, but he could do anything. And I wanted to tell you, in all three of these houses, there was no electricity. I was 16 when I finally got, up until then, did my homework by kerosene lamp. And my dad put electric in every one of those houses. But they are just pictures in the various yards of actually lived in 3 houses in that area.
When did your dad first get a car?
He had a Model T, and I think when he went to work at Bud's, that's when he got some money. Oh, and then he got a luxury car that was about 10 years old, but it looked really fancy. And the one that I learned, he taught me how to drive when I was 4. After he came away from being incarcerated with the FBI, with the federal people, he bought a 41 Pontiac Champion. The Commander was the big one. Or no, President was the big one. He bought the
Champion?
No, Champion was the Commander. The Champion was the, and I was 14, and he said, you need to learn how to drive. So, but I need to learn how to fix the car first. And he had taught me how to do that too.
Now, when he worked in Bud, and he walked along River Road, were there milestones along the road?
All along, it would tell you 1 mile or mile and a half or whatever to go. Stone.
Because they're all gone now.
None
I guess the
around.
Expressway did them out. Now, once you walked over the Green Lane Bridge into Manayunk, how would he get from there to work?
You'd get the 61 trolley right at the corner of the bridge, and it would take you down to like Lehigh Avenue or Allegheny Avenue, and then you would get a transfer to wherever you. But I mean, he was pretty resourceful. But when he had a car, he worked at Bud's, and then after he was released and found out that nothing would, he was okay. He wasn't a traitor. He wasn't enemy alien. He was not allowed to go back to his job. They wouldn't let him because he was not a citizen. So he got a job at Container Corporation. And he made...
that was handy.
He sharpened all the blades and stuff for them.
The Container Corporation made paper products.
Yeah, worked there until he died.
Okay. It's funny because I worked there in college and high school in the summer.
He had a guy that went on to be a professional boxer that was his helper a couple of summers. Johnson comes to mind, the name, I'm not too sure. But I'll never forget, he asked my father what his clock number, he had a dream about my dad, and he had wanted to know what his clock number, it was 7 something, so my dad told him, and he played it the next day, and he won money. So that was, you know.
Helen, when the store was operating, you didn't stay there the whole time because you had a family and children. Did your mother leave Ludlum's, and
yes,
could you tell about that?
My mother took over, and we traded houses, and she took over the store, and then she became disabled from another heart attack. She had 4 and in her day, and we closed the store down, and she eventually passed away, and we rented out the garage to somebody, and they caused a fire that the store burned to the ground and part of the house, and the township would never let me rebuild it because they had aspirations for a park back then. And she was 66 when she passed away, and then from there on, I mean, I just kept on going by myself and wound up having my own business and everything. But I learned a lot, and a life's lesson, no matter what life throws at you, keep going. You just you just can't throw in the towel. So by the time my things looked up when I moved to Belmont Hills, and I got a job with a contractor, and it was I raised 4 children by myself, and I have 4 good kids.
Good. Well, thanks for sharing your living history with us. We've very much enjoyed hearing about River Road and your pre-Revolutionary War house and your store and Dr. Ludlum's Sanitarium and swimming in the river. And so it's been great to share these memories. So I'd like to thank Helen Dixon for sharing her living history with us. And this is Ted Goldsboro. Until the next time.